If there is a meme that is eternal and will probably never ever die unless the game actually comes out, it's probably Half-Life 3 confirmed, but if some comments from a recent interview published by Game Informer are to be believed, Half-Life 3 just might not actually even exist. Now, I will of course include the full interview in the description below, but this is an unnamed source who Game Informer are standing by, but you should still take everything here with a pinch of salt. Now, the source was not shy. They flatly came out and said, quote, "There is no such thing as Half-Life 3. And they continued, "Valve has never announced a Half-Life 3. The closest they've come is after Half-Life 2, they said there will be 3 episodes. We only got 2 of those. That is arguably an unfulfilled promise. Anything else that we might think about as a full game or sequel has never been promised." Now, it's pretty common knowledge at this point that Valve has an unusual company structure within its actual, company. And the culture and structure within the company means that anybody can just gather a group of developers and go, "Hey, let's work on a new Half-Life game," and according to the source, this has happened about a dozen times, and sometimes has even recruited about 40 people onto the team working on it. However, unless someone from on high goes, "Okay, I support this, here's actual funding, we're going to actually, advertise this, fully throw our support behind it," the project obviously just kind of fizzles out and is just there as an unfinished bundle of code that will probably never see the light of day and might even just be dumped in the recycle bin. However, the insider continued, quote, "When they were making episodes for Half-Life 2, that was probably the best and strongest effort that ever happened toward another Half-Life project. You have people that were working on Half-Life, people that finished Half-Life Episode 2 that already imagined where they wanted to go next. They were cooking and wanted to keep the wheels spinning. Undoubtedly, what happened is a lot of things were changing for Valve. You have a whole bunch of pet and big projects going on. All of that is getting more gravity than this 3rd episode of Half-Life. There's something with that 3rd episode that isn't sitting right with Gabe and other people at Valve. Ultimately, it just starves to death. The people that tried to give it life find themselves better off working on other projects. What you have left is nothing going on with Half-Life." Now, the full interview with the source is really lengthy, and I will, of course, as I said, include it in the description below, and I highly recommend you read it as it's a really fascinating read. But one question that I do want to touch on here from Game Informer is, does Valve owe it to the fans of Half-Life to finish what they started and at least wrap up Half-Life 2? And well, the source's predictions were not particularly positive for fans of the series. He said, quote, "I don't think there will be any more, but at any given moment they make decisions as they come. If some people within Valve make something that they feel collectively is exciting, then it will happen. It's going to be hard for that to happen now. Every time a Half-Life project gets some gravity and then collapses, it becomes harder for the next one to start up. Because the business changes so much and there are so many other things to do, it just gets harder and harder. It's one of those things that they'll always have to accept. People are going to harass them for more Half-Life. The idea of delivering a 3rd episode of Half-Life 2, that's dead. There's no universe where that will happen. I think there is a universe where a standalone thing could come together to fill that hole, but that's tough. There are some business connections that could help it, like it being released exclusively on SteamOS. That's a big thing. People will be like, well, I need now to go get a Steam machine. There'll be value in that. Is it enough? If Valve seriously contemplates that, you'd think they would look bigger at bigger things first, like Steam native Counter-Strike or Dota 3. Half-Life is big for those who played it, but the game has never really mattered to console customers. The brand doesn't really have the penetration it deserves. So those are but some small snippets of this interview. This source goes in depth about the culture of Valve, describes it as being like a university with, how sort of relaxed and interesting and unique that the culture is inside Valve in comparison to not only most companies, but of course most actual game developers within the same industry as well. And of course, while we shouldn't take these comments as 100% concrete, confirmed, sprinkle a lot of salt on them like you would your fish and chips or whatever, but they're not exactly warming the heart with hope now, are they? And to be honest, it kind of lines up with what I think we already know. If Valve was going to make Half-Life 2 Episode 3 or Half-Life 3, they probably would have at least started work. And if they'd started work, a leak would have happened, a screenshot would have leaked, or something would have been going on that would let us know in some way that they were at least working on it. And the fact that that hasn't happened tells me that the project is pretty much dead in the water, unless, you know, a strike of lightning comes down from on high and Gabe gets an idea, or someone higher up has a good idea for what they think would be good to do for Half-Life. I don't think it's going to happen. And Valve are pretty happy to keep supporting Dota, which of course is doing really, really well. Counter-Strike undoubtedly as well. And of course, Steam. So I'm going to go with my cynical side, which is like 95% of my human body, and say that it's probably not going to happen, but there is that 5% of hope. Just like, please, if you could, that would be lovely. But it's not looking positive. But again, read the interview in full, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.